Play hard and love big radio podcast. Inspiration on your station with the show broadcast. You don't want to miss it. You gotta listen. Good vibes and stories for you to go the distance. Bringing inspiration, stories that shine. Helping you connect heart and mind align. Live your best life, lift up and soar. Fueled by kumquat energy, we give you more. Play hard and love big.
Missy, thank you so much for being here on this special edition of Play Hard and Love Big Radio inside of Spotted Dog Yoga and Sup.
I love it.
It's a cool place, huh?
Gorgeous. You
Yeah.
guys have to come see it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's like it's really colorful and playful.
Yes.
And,
yes. And I like how beware, don't come in here. You might become happy.
yeah, warning, yoga causes health and happiness. Yeah. I don't know if that deters people or if they're like, sweet, because some people are kind of stuck in their misery. They're like, I don't know if I want to be healthy and happy. Yeah, I'm not going in there.
I like the misery.
I know it is true.
Misery
sometimes
creates company.
Exactly.
If they're all happy in there, I can't find anyone that is in the same energy as me.
Exactly. People like living in it. It's nuts, but the this podcast, Play Hard, Love Big Radio, is the motto of Spotted Dog Yoga and Sup.
Yeah.
And we came up with it because our dog Bandit reminded us the importance of playing hard. And then if you play hard, that you love big.
Right.
Like when we first got him, he was a rescue and he's a cattle dog. And he needs to be worked out. But I didn't realize that. I just thought he's like this cute, fun, outdoorsy dog. But I didn't know how much he had to be worked out. And so it was like, first we put him in a crate and kind of when we left. And then we came back and he was like drooling and scratching at the crate. And that wasn't working. And we're like, okay, we'll put him in our bedroom. Right. And then we get home and he dug up the carpet and was trying to get out from under the door. And then we put him in the garage. And literally the dog chewed the garage sensors.
What?
And he chewed as if he was smart enough to figure out like, if I chew this, I'm going to be able to get the hell out of here, And then my aunt called and I was talking with her and I was telling her I was having an issue with the dog, because he was eating everything and destroying things. And she's like, what kind of dog is it? I said, it's a cattle dog. It's a blue heeler. She's like, you need to take it out multiple times a day and work that dog, play that dog. So I started taking him out swimming and running and doing all the things playing. Right. And then he came back and he was like a doll. He's like, just like loving on us and super happy, So anyway, that's what we try to impart on people through our philosophy here with yoga and stand-up paddleboarding and all those things. And that's what this podcast is all about. And that's why I'm so stoked to have you here, because you represent that, Missy.
And I think what's so beautiful about dogs too is they teach us to be present, right? So many times in our life we get out of the present moment, or we try to figure out what's the meaning of life, what's the purpose of life, right? But if you look at a dog, right? A dog, the meaning of life is just to live, to be, to just breathe, right? To just feel, to just be present. There's really no meaning to life. You are not created for this mighty, almighty, powerful thing. It's no, if you look at the beings in the world besides humans, right? We're the ones that have okay, here's your contract. And here's your name, and here's your social security number, right? But dogs are what? Can you go to bed? Just freaking play.
Just come play with me.
Be.
Come pet me. Just be with me.
Right. I'm gonna roll on my belly, and you're gonna pet me and feed me. That's life. Feed me, pet me, and go to bed. Yeah,
and that's what and that's what they live for. And also they live. I think they're here to remind us of what you're speaking of, the importance of slowing down and petting them.
Right.
I interviewed another man for the podcast. He's really great. His name is Robert Sturman, and he is a photographer, and he had this huge breakthrough in his photography when he realized that if he just got down on the eye level of his dog, that everything shifted. The dog he could actually see his dog at eye level. His dog could see him at eye level. The dog felt more empowered. There's this whole aspect of the way that you approach and communicate with people or dogs, beings in general, is if you can communicate with them on their level, that you get you can get something from the interaction, so
100%.
So I like what you're saying. I think dogs are here to remind us to get present. I'm like, shit, put my phone away and get down and pet my dog for a second,
It's so true. So many times people call me as an astrologer. It's like, Missy, what's my life path? What am I supposed to be doing? Right. And I feel especially right now, people are really awakening to who am I? Right? Who am I? What's the meaning of life? Right? And sometimes I call that the dark night of the soul, right? Is a journey into the dark night of, and I went through it when I was 12, which we can talk about when I fell out a 3-story window. And you go through this darkness of like, who am I? Why am I here? And it's when everything got kicked out from underneath you, right? You're no longer this amazing person. Your business went down the drain. Like all of a sudden you're like, okay, who am I without all of these accolades and placards and money and fame and all of this stuff? And then you realize it's not about that. It's just about being present, you know, the essence of life.
Yeah, it's not about like the identity that we create through life. It's just about being in life.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes you got to get knocked to the curb to be, like have a realization of that in some way, right?
100%.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did happen to you when you were 12?
So when I was 12 years old, I was I was training for the Junior Olympics for swimming. I was like a straight A student. I was like the mean girl. Like I thought I was like the it girl, right? And then at 12 years old, I won California State Championship. And so my parents flew me down to San Diego. It's kind of like, congratulations, learn to surf, like have fun, like kind of like a little fun party thing. And I got to take a friend of mine. And we got to the condo, and the condo was from floor to ceiling, 3-story. And I fell out of the 3-story window, because I was leaning on the window, and the window like leaning against it, and the window or the screen cracked, and I fell 3 stories, and I broke my back on a black metal bar fence.
Oh, so you're leaning on the screen, and the screen popped out and you fell out?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
And
what
it
was
from
that?
Like floor to ceiling was the screen. Yeah. And
Whoa.
so it popped out. I fell and I broke my back. I was life flighted to Children's Hospital, where and my parents, we just got to this hotel. Like we weren't even there for like 15 minutes before I was like falling out the window, you know? So they didn't even know how to get down to get me. My dad was at the beach, and I had 2 7-hour back-to-back surgeries. The first 7 hours was just to like calm my body down, because I was bleeding from my eyes, my nose, my head, everywhere. Like I was just like internally bleeding. And then the second surgery was to infuse 2 rods in my back, you know? And at that time, I crossed over to the other side, and I met Jesus. I saw the white light, and he put his hand on my head, kind of like this. And he's like, you have to go back and proclaim my name. And I woke up in the hospital like 3 weeks later, pulled all the IVs out of me. And I said, where the hell am I? And they're like, you've been here for 3 weeks. I'm like, I have not been here for 3 weeks, you know? And so then I was paralyzed, you know, and it's literally, I went home. I tried to commit suicide 3 times, being at home by myself. And I was just like, there's no reason to live, right? I'm home alone by myself. My parents aren't home. My brother's not home. I have no clue about life at all. You know what I mean? And you really learn what the essence of life is. And I just remember really getting down to life of like looking at a bumblebee and going, thank you for being in my presence today. You know, looking at I Love Lucy on the TV and just like thanking Lucy for being on today. It's like the very presence of life you forget until you like get it completely knocked down.
How did you get to that point where you could actually look at a bumblebee and say, hey, bumblebee, I love you. Thank you for being here. Like from a place where you were like, so what do you call it? The dark
night of the soul.
The dark night of the soul.
It's because I went through this place of really, I actually had, to be honest with you, I had the Bible, right? And came to a point where I just kept trying to commit suicide. And when I was in the hallway one day, I was holding the Bible in my hand. I said, God, if you're real, give me my legs back. And I said, if you give me my legs back when I'm 30 years old, I'll open a Battered Women's and Children's shelter. So he said, stand up. And so I stood up that day and I began to walk down the hallway.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then I just was like, oh my God, there's something to life, right? And from that essence, I felt like I could live for something, right? And I just remember watching my dad, mop the floor and thinking, I wish I could get on my hands and knees, like watching my mom fold clothes, wishing I could fold clothes. And so then I just started to breathe in reality. Like I just started to just wake up and just be like, I'm alive, I'm alive, and I could have the possibility to walk, and I started journaling and saying, what am I thankful for? You know what I mean? What am I happy about? And so it started with the bumblebee to the ant to the ladybug on the leaf, that I even went back to school after all of this had happened and people were gossiping and talking, and it like hurt my ears. Because I'm like, do you know how blessed you are to just have a conversation, period? You know, you just get back to like the finer things of life of like, there's so much more to life than just what we complain about and talk about. And, you know, it's just like life is so beautiful if you just stop at the essence of it, you know?
Do you think that it requires for somebody to have an experience like that in order to get to the place where they find that gratitude, or can somebody cultivate that without having some kind of nutty experience?
I mean, I would hope that they wouldn't have to go
Yeah.
through that experience. I feel like it gives you a totally different sense on life. Like, it's like you wake up as a whole different person. Like you know, like I was this person that it's like, I had to be the #1 spelling bee champ, and I had to be like the straight A student, right? And you just wake up to like, F it. Life is so simple, right? Like we get so stuck in like, we got to be the best, we got to do our best. But in reality, it's like, even with my kids nowadays, like my children that I have, like I'm just like, Lily will come home and she's like, I got a 78. I was like, oh, good job, babe. You know, it's not like I go, oh my God, you did horrible. It's like, you tried your best, you know?
Yeah. How old
like,
is Lily?
She's 10,
10.
you know?
Yeah.
But I tell all my girls that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I also just roll with life. The other day, Lily woke up. She was like, I'm really tired. I just want to sleep in. I'm like, babe, sleep in and we'll go to school an hour late, right?
Yeah.
It's just staying in the flow of life without getting into the nit and gritty. And in reality, like that's manifestation. Manifestation is when you can relax and be calm. That's when things flow to you, right? Like if you look at snow, right? Snow falling down, you can never catch it, right? It just like whoosh away, because energetically it can feel that you want it.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
get that.
Yeah, it can feel it. But when you just stand there and allow it to fall on you, right? It flows to you. Very similar to a cat or an animal or a rabbit or anything. And that's like the universal law is flow, rather than go, 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 get, be it here, right? That's like so ingrained in what we've really not been designed to do.
Yeah, no, I get that too. Like my kids, like Owen, sometimes he sleeps in a little, and I think, oh, should I wake him up and get him to school on time? I'm like, whatever, get some rest, man. If you're tired, like, you get the rest, you know? And it also reminds me of like our relationship.
Yeah.
Because quite often when I'm back, I'm like, hey, let's get together. Let's do something. Let's connect, you know? And it just doesn't work out.
Right.
I'm like, okay, let's try this again. And like, well, you want to do this podcast with me? Like that works, you know? And so like it, at the right time, it works. You can't force it. Like, it's like, you don't want to be hammering a square peg into a round hole. Isn't that what they say?
100%, you know, and it's just crazy too how life works out. You know, like today I was actually supposed to have a dentist appointment at 11.
Yeah.
And then the dentist called me and said, hey, we got to cancel your appointment. And then you send me a message. You're like, hey, we have our podcast. I was like, oh my God. Thank God my dentist was canceled.
Exactly.
You know?
Look at your teeth. You have great teeth. You didn't go to the dentist today. You didn't. You went with the flow.
It's like forgetting the flow of life.
Yeah.
Right. Of forgetting that at the right moment, you can never miss out on an opportunity that's not for you. Period.
Wow, that's good. Yeah.
Right.
And I think that if you're aware and present,
right,
then those opportunities that you run into, you can grab a hold of and utilize, you know?
Yeah.
But if you're not present or aware, they go by you. There's opportunities in every moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. So you got your legs back. Yeah. And then what happened in your life? What did you start doing? What was next for you?
Then of course I went to high school, you know, I went to grade school and then high school. And then I turned 30 essentially, like if we want to skip like over like to when,
what a decade, man.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened during that time.
I'm sure.
A lot of stuff that happened. Yeah. I mean, I definitely tend to walk by faith. So a lot of the stuff I've been through in life, like even to my ex-husband that I met, I used to pray to God to help me find a man that could help me with my family law judge case. And I just kept praying to God, like send me the right man that can help me with my family law judge case with my ex, because it was a really bad court case I was going through. And of course, God sends me the son of the judge of my family law case.
Wow. No kidding. Like, ask and you shall receive. Here you go.
It's like, here's the son.
Yeah. Here you go.
Your judge.
What else can I do for you, Missy?
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's like the story of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just learning to be in flow and just ask and you shall receive. You know what I mean?
That's so interesting. And what it's so cool. What comes up for me in conversation, what came up for me then was at this point in my life where I had a break up with a girl, and I was just getting into teaching yoga, but I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was like, you know what, it would be awesome if I found some kind of family that liked to travel and I could just like hang at their place and take care of their house, you know, like kind of put that out there. And then I just went on about life. I wasn't like dwelling about it. I was just present. Then I ran into this man and I met him at yoga and became really good friends with him. And he heard that I was looking for a place to stay, and they were just getting ready to go travel a bunch. And they had this dog they wanted me to take care of. And they're like, you want to move in and just take care of our dog? I'm like, sweet. So I moved in, and it was one of the best years of my life, you know?
Gosh, free.
It was so cool. Like I was able to put away money and then also go do a bunch of trainings with Baron Baptiste and develop my craft. But then also like I started playing the guitar and just had like the space to really connect to myself. And then and then when I wasn't looking, I met Katie, and like all the kind of things fell into place, you know. And it was like, whoa, I asked for this and it happened. And it's like, when, you know, there's moments like that in life, but I don't always remember them until I'm having conversations about it.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other moments like that that have happened for you?
So many moments like that. I mean, I think, you know, I remember this one time when I was fighting sex trafficking. I told Blake, I was like, God's going to give us 20 acres. And he's like, Missy, God's not going to give us 20 acres. I'm like, well, God told me he would give me 20 acres. And so then I went to go speak at this woman's retreat. And this lady came up to me. She's like, hey, God just told me he wants me to give you 20 acres in Rescue, California. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, so you can build your little tiny homes that you talk about, right?
No way.
Yeah.
So did you end up doing that?
Yeah.
So you're working with an organization to fight sex trafficking?
So I started my own organization.
You started your own organization.
So basically what happened is, if you remember the conversation I had with God when I was 12, when I was 30 years old, I'd open a battered women's and children's shelter.
You made a promise.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then what ended up happening was, when I was 29, no, it was 30 actually, I met a lady, and she was telling me about some girls that she knew that could help me with this business opportunity that I was doing. And I was like, wait, what? What is sex trafficking? I was like, what is that? And she's like, you don't know what that is? And I'm like, no, like I've never even heard of the term. Right. And she told me about it, and I was like, what? And I was like so upset. I was so blown away. I was so oblivious that it, like, my heart just like set on fire, you know? And I went home that night for like 3 days straight. I probably cried on and off. I had a daughter at the time. I'm like, how can little girls be sold like this? And I remember one night I was touching my daughter's head, and God's like, that's why I created you. And he's like, remember the vow you made to me? He's like, you're 30 now. Right. And so that's when I went into fighting sex trafficking. And that's when I opened the homes for women and fought sex trafficking, essentially.
And for how many years did you do that? And then what happened after that?
So I did it for about 7 years, and I would go on the streets, you know, and fight sex trafficking from like 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the morning. And we raised money, we spread awareness, but it was taking a darker road because of the stuff the deeper that I was getting into. Right. And so I remember in 2017, God came to me and he said, you need to stop. And I said, I'm not stopping. Right. And when you start to grow something and God tells you to stop, it's almost like your ego goes, no.
You like resist that.
Right.
Like, you're
I'm
hearing
something all over the world. Like, we're saving people.
Yeah.
And like, you want me to stop now? Right.
Yeah.
And so it was that very essence of me saying no that the nonprofit started to tank. Right. The donors started to go away. Things started to happen. Doors started to shut.
Like the flow, you resisted the flow, and the flow like cut off energy to it.
100%.
Okay. Yeah,
and I knew that God was like moving me to a new season. Right. I knew there was a new season that was coming. I was also putting on a persona that was like, look at me, everything's fine. Like, smoke and mirrors, like our family's perfect.
Sure.
Right. I speak all across the world, but everything's fine. But in reality, I was dying inside.
Got it.
You know, like I was dying. I wasn't seeing my children. My ex-husband at the time was working all the time, like in San Francisco, like 6 days a week. So I never saw him. We never had a relationship. Right. And I was trying to fix that and mend that, but that was just not fixable.
Yeah.
And I even remember God saying, like, you need to file for divorce. And I was like, how could God tell me I need to file for divorce? I'm like, this is not God. Right.
Right.
And I remember going down to file for divorce. And I talked to my husband about it. And he's like, okay, how are we going to do this with the community? How is this going to look? And then I went down to file, and it wasn't sad. There was like no like hesitation on his end. It was just like, okay. Right.
Yeah. Okay. He wasn't resisting it.
No.
But you're like, wait a sec, how could this be?
I know. Like I'm sitting here like fighting it, like, you know, so hardcore.
And I mean, I think a part of that though, and like as you care so much too, right?
Yeah.
There's this like level of care, like same with your business.
Right.
But then with him too, like you care, you want things to work out.
Yeah.
But then sometimes like a higher power, God is telling you to do something different.
Yeah. Cause he can see, you know, it's like God can see things that happen behind closed doors, things
Right.
that happen beyond what we can see. Right.
Yeah.
And so I remember going down to file, and you have to understand, I worked for the nonprofit for free. So I didn't make any money. Right. And my husband was the only one that worked. So when I went down to file, they're like, it's $500. I'm like, what? Wait, what?
To file?
To file?
Wait a sec.
Like,
let me call my future ex-husband real quick and get $500.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So then I went outside and I was praying to God. I was like, you wanted this, you need to make it happen. Right. And so then my friend called me, not my future husband. He has a girlfriend. And I was like, hey, he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm trying to file for divorce, but I have like no money. Like, I don't even have a freaking bank account because it's like in my husband, and he'll like, it's just wouldn't work out. We don't even have that much money in our freaking account right now because we're in the red. Right.
Yeah.
And so then he's like, I'll come down and give it to you. So he came down and like gave me the money.
No kidding.
Right.
Wow. My gosh.
And so then after that, everything just rolled out, you know, like I literally totally walked by faith. I was like, I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know where I was going to work. I didn't know like where anything. Right. And it was all of a sudden like a place opened up for me where I was able to live there for free. You know, COVID hit. You know, so then I started like finding out who I was and the healing process of that, you know, of just really recuperating myself through the trauma of it all. Right. And it's just the blessings started rolling in, you know, then I was back in that flow again.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Got it. There was a disruption in the flow, but like a transitional phase for you, which can be like really uncomfortable for a lot of people too.
Right.
Did you feel like you were trying to create something in that time period, or were you just allowing it sounds like you were just allowing yourself to kind of be and to heal.
Lost.
Oh yeah.
I was just like so lost. I'm like, okay, God, where do you want me now? Like, who am I now? Right. And that's where I just was like, I don't know who I am, where I'm going. Like, I just felt in this energy. But I also felt in the energy of I'm just going to fucking be me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to be raw. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be so authentic. I'm just going to show up as me. You know, I'm tired of putting on this face, this facade for like everyone to look at and be like, oh my God, they're such a pretty couple. Like, look at how amazing their life is. Like, I was so sick of that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
like kind of exhausting to be like that, right? To just
totally.
fake it in that way.
Yeah. And just, you know, and have this lifeless, loveless marriage that is like totally going downhill. Yeah. Right. And you're trying to fix it, but then the other person on the other side just doesn't want to fix it, you know?
Just for like a side note break, because this is such a good story. I'm curious for those people who are in a place like that, that are stuck. Maybe they don't have any faith or faith in God or faith in general. Right. What would you recommend for them to start walking? How can people start walking in faith?
You know, I think the biggest thing is a couple things, right? A couple things that start to happen to your body is your body starts to break down. Your body starts to get sick. You can get diseases, you can get cancer, and it's your cells that are saying you're sick. Like you're not in the right space. You're not in the right energy. Right. And so I would say just to have faith is you need to like every single day. I just started living this. I literally said to myself, fuck it. Like I'm done. I can't be fake anymore. You know, and one thing my counselor said something really good. She's my psychologist because I went to her for like, I need anxiety medication. Right.
Yeah.
And she said to Missy, she goes, you don't need anxiety medication. She's like, you just need to step off your platform and save yourself. She's like, you're too busy saving other people that you're not saving you.
Got it.
And I was like, wow. And when she said that, I was like, wow, that's so true. Because here I am drowning in being sick and like, I just remember this one season, I was just like, I couldn't get over my cold. I just couldn't get over it.
Yeah.
You know? And I just remember that and just thinking like, I got to move forward. Like you'll get so sick of being sick. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Like
Totally.
Literally. You
Oh,
get
yeah.
just so sick and tired of being sick and tired. You get so sick and tired of the run around, the manipulation, the whatever's happening, that you're like, I just want to live my truth.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's like I had this beautiful conversation with my ex-husband. I said, don't you just want to be happy? Like you deserve it. Like you deserve to have your heart on fire for somebody that like absolutely you love. Right.
Yeah.
And I just said, you deserve that. And so it was like in that moment, I think he kind of like had this awakening, right? Too, of like, I do, we both do, you know? But you get so into the grain of the contract, right? And that's not flow state.
Yeah. Right.
Right. If you look at the world, animals, they are constantly shifting. Birds are constantly flying north, flying south. You know, the leaves are falling, things are changing, but humans, they stay stuck.
Right.
In contracts.
Yeah, totally. In contract.
Right?
It's like we were just talking about that with Bandit and dogs.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to live by a certain rule or expectation as a human being. If you
Right.
do, sometimes that really
Yeah.
it restricts the flow.
Right.
The flow state, man.
And I watched my parents growing up, and they just, I don't want to say they had a bad relationship, but I
Yeah.
just knew they weren't happy. And I
Yeah.
watched that. And because of that dynamic, I was like, I will never live that life. Right. And ironically, because of my divorce, 7 years later, my parents turned 67. My dad actually filed for divorce.
Wow.
Because you realize life is so short to be not happy.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
to teach your kids to stay in situations that are not happy.
Oh, yeah.
And
By your actions, what
by
you're
your
saying.
actions,
Yeah.
right? And you know, me going upstairs when Blake would get home so I wouldn't have to face the reality of the situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure he didn't understand it at the time because I was in my own energy, right? But you just start doing things and you realize like, I don't want to like live this life anymore. You know, but it's going to take me untangling my whole entire nonprofit. It's going to take tangling all of the stuff I've done.
Yeah.
And my whole life is going to spiral. Right. And it's like literally killing something that you absolutely love. You know what I mean? And so I feel
Totally.
like at the time it was a lot, you know?
Yeah.
So.
It seems like a lot. I mean, and I get it too, like just in the everyday, like working a business or being in a relationship, doing all the things like every day, I feel like I'm trying to shift, not just trying, I am shifting the way that I'm approaching it.
Right.
So that I can be more effective
right.
in my delivery so we can make a bigger impact. And that way I think is really relatable too, because there are people out there that do love the people that they're with. They like really care about them, but maybe something's not working and they keep trying to do it the same way that they've always done it. And sometimes you have to do it differently to create flow.
Right.
You know, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result, right? Like that kind of thing. So the other thing that we were just talking about that made me think of, Missy, is cool is like things give us up.
Right.
Things give us up. Like for what I'm hearing from you say, you got to a place where it's like you were just exhausted, being like sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like you're just, and finally you're like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Can't do it. And for me and for this person here who has a lot of life to live, like we can't do this anymore.
No.
So you like, instead of fighting it and pushing, you know, into the struggle, you like really kind of just let it go and let it get messy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so after that happened, then what's next for you? I mean, what was the next
so then,
step?
you know, I got into, so during COVID happened. And so I started basically like getting into like some just chat groups. Right. And I want to tell anybody that's going through a divorce or shifting in their life, the biggest thing to do is to get into a community.
Nice.
That's the biggest thing. Because if you do it solo and alone, it's very, very difficult, right? And finding a community, finding something outside of the community you had already created is huge, because you're going to have to become a whole new person that this other community is not used to. And because they're not used to that, they're going to keep pulling you back to the old you. Right. So creating a new you and almost like reinventing yourself, if you will. Right. And so I started going on this Facebook chat as a bunch of astrologers. I love astrology. So I was like, whatever. Like, it's what I love to do. Like, you know, it's like you and yoga, right? Like, I'll just go paddleboarding. Like, what the heck? Why not?
Yeah.
Right.
Boom.
And then paddleboarding with these group of friends, then all of a sudden leads you to open spotted dog yoga. Right.
Well, In some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially the same thing happened to me.
Got it.
Right. Yeah. And so I was talking with all these astrologers like, Missy, you really need to teach astrology. And I'm like, no, because I'm Christian and Christians do not look at stars.
How interesting.
And then God's like, or I know everything you do and it doesn't matter because I know exactly who you are. You're just trying to people please, people around you rather than me.
You're not listening to me again, Missy.
I know, you're not listening.
Hello. Got it. Okay.
But like all these astrologers started taking my classes. Like they were like huge astrologers. Like, Missy, you know so much astrology. Like you need to teach. Right?
You just had an interest in it, or you done some studying in it, or what? I mean, you have it. If you. It was just innate.
What happening was when I was 16 years old, I started to dabble in it. I started to look at it. I started to wonder, why did I fall out this window? Like there has to be something written in the stars.
Interesting.
Right? There has to show something. Like I needed an answer.
Yeah.
Like I just wasn't in this energy of believing that it just randomly happened. Right. So I went to the stars and actually I found it within the stars that at the exact moment that my vertex hit my Pluto, hit the asteroid fall, that Uranus hit Lucifer in the 8th house of Sag, like I felt the window.
Did y'all get that? Did y'all catch that?
Did y'all catch that? I mean, I can even go deeper, but I won't. There's a lot more that happened with the stars that day.
Well, what I love about the way that you deliver your work is that it's very relatable. It was like the first time I met you and we were talking about it, I was like, I don't even know what that means, but it makes total sense. Yeah, you're right. Okay, keep going. But yeah, what? So okay, so you look at your chart, you're working on it, and you see like, oh, this makes sense. This is where this happened,
right?
And it's written in the stars. So can you talk about that? Like that everything is written in the stars. What does that? What does that mean?
Well, essentially, like it's hard to say this because people are like, well, what do you mean? I don't have like free will. You do have free will. But essentially, there are some things that are just destined, like your friend passing, right? I saw that, right? In the stars. I was like, whoa, what did you just go through, right? Because I saw this 8th house is transformation, death, and rebirth, and it showed up in your chart, right? And so you can literally see everybody's timeline of their life of big shifts that happen in their life, big movements, big awakenings, big things that happen, and so sometimes when I meet people, I'm like, whoa, what are you going through?
Yeah, no, I think it's so cool. I mean, and also like you're a professional at this. Like when I first met you, it was funny. We were talking about it earlier. I was like, I met you out paddleboarding. I was like, Missy, I've seen your face before. And now, are you a real estate agent?
Everyone always thinks I'm a real estate agent.
I think it's like I told you. I think it's because you present yourself in a very, very professionally, and I'm glad that you do. That's the way you should. And you're like, no, I'm a teacher, and then later I'm like, oh, she's a teacher. Okay, cool. And then later on we were talking. You told me more about what it is that you're doing. But you're a professional, and it's not like you're just looking at the horoscopes of people. You're like really you took down my information, my birthday, the time that I was born, like some other stuff, right? And then you have the ability to look at a chart, and to dissect that chart, and then by doing that, how is that helpful for people?
So like I can see exactly the energy you're moving through, right? So I always say like looking at a chart, like the basic astrology, like the 8 planets, that's kindergarten to me.
That's like the Sunday morning paper. Well, I mean online paper or whatever there is now.
That gives you like a little bit of a gist.
Yeah, that's Capricorn, or that's not Capricorn. That's kindergarten,
right?
People.
That's like kindergarten, right?
Yeah, right.
Like the stuff that I know and teach is like I use the asteroids, I use the aspects, I use things that you're going through. Like if you have cancer, I can see in what part of the body, right? If you're gonna get COVID, I can see when. I can see the parasites where they're at in your body. It's like I can literally see every element of your body where things are going wrong
from the chart. You're not like looking at me seeing a parasite in the center of my forehead right now.
And your third eye.
You have a parasite in your third eye, Nick. No, just
right here. No, so like I can like see everything. I can see the cycle of life you're in. I can see the cycles you're going to be going through. I can see when there's going to be a huge death that could happen to you, a rebirth that could happen. I can see when your child's going to be born, if you're not going to have a child. Like, I mean, sometimes I hate to say it. I can see when someone's going to lose the child that they have and they're pregnant. You know what I mean? It's like, I can see all of that in the chart.
Does sometimes people not want to see that?
Well, I typically tell people I'm not going to tell you death because I'm really good at death.
Yeah, you're really good at death. Again, what was that saying? The dark, what? It was earlier on, the dark.
I don't remember.
I don't know, but you're really good at seeing
Yeah,
death.
yeah.
Okay, well, but do you always look at that whole thing too? Like when you're looking at a chart, do you
Yeah.
just automatically you see the death and all that stuff too?
Yeah, I can see everything.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
people's timeline, where they're living, and like what they're working through, their pains they're going through.
Yeah.
Because there's also what's considered a day chart. Okay, so there's
Okay.
there's multiple charts. Okay, so the basic kindergarten is your natal. And
Your
then-
natal?
Yeah, your natal chart.
Your natal chart is the preschool, kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Then we'll upgrade to like 3rd, 4th grade, which is your progress chart. Okay,
Okay.
that's 3rd, 4th grade.
Okay.
And then we'll go up a little bit more and we'll call your draconic chart, 5th, 6th grade. That's your higher self. That's who you're supposed to be before you came here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
And then like we'll go into like 7th and 8th grade. This is your solar arc chart. This is timing of events, when events actually occur in your life, of like certain events. And then your day chart can dictate when you're going to win the lotto, when, you know, you could get in a car accident, when energy could shift and really affect you.
Gotcha.
You know?
Have you ever seen someone's chart that was about to win the lottery?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, I had a student that I was teaching her the day chart, my advanced student. And I was like, babe, oh my God, you need to just go play the lotto, pull a machine, do whatever. Like, do whatever you got to do. Just do anything.
Go to Vegas now.
Like,
Get
just,
out of here.
Like, yeah. Like, just like pull a machine, do something, right?
Yeah.
So she's like, really, Missy? I was like, yes. So I said, like, you need to do it in the next 24 hours. Like, it has to be done in the next 24 hours. So she went down. She lives in Canada. She drove an hour and a half to a casino. Okay. She put her cup down and she accidentally hit the machine like this, and it went and she won $25,000.
Holy smokes. So she shows up purposefully at a casino based off a recommendation for you, and then she accidentally hits the machine and she wins 25 grand. That's awesome. Nice. Did she give you a commission on that?
It was destined for her to win a big chunk of money.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Got you. That's amazing.
So
all right.
Either way, it was destined to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I try to tell people, like, no matter what, it's in your destiny. Like, and you can either, take it for what it is. And so there could have been something else that happened too, right? She could have been in a car accident and got $25,000 settlement, right?
Got it. Like it could occur in different ways, not
Exactly.
necessarily the way that you picture that I would picture it. Yeah, I see.
Because eighth house is also other people's money. It's also the death house, right?
Interesting.
So it could have been through some like cause of accident or death or anything, right? So that's why I was like, you need to get to a casino because we need to make sure this comes in the right way.
Yeah, no kidding. But drive safely on the way to the casino.
Drive safely.
Seatbelt, make sure you have a full tank of gas. Oh, wow. Okay. So by giving helping people and understanding their charts and whatnot, you give them insight on where they are, which I know from in my personal experiences allows me to make shifts, or to just maybe not even make shifts, but just to kind of be with where I'm at and like a little bit more, and have a little bit more compassion with myself.
Right.
And
100%.
that way, is that how you would explain the value of having your chart read?
Yeah.
In some ways,
especially if you're going through like a huge shift, like especially like say if you're Aquarius rising or a Pisces rising, this can really be for you where you feel all alone right now.
Yeah.
Right. You feel lonely. You feel isolated. You're like, what is wrong with me? Like you can even be suicidal, with Saturn going through your 12th house. So it almost gives you this like reassurance. I almost make the unconscious conscious. That's what I tell people. I take what basically you're feeling and then I make it a reality. I say, yeah, you're not going crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I break down a timeline. Okay, this is when the energy is going to shift.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the weather, right? I could say, hey, Nick, it's going to rain for 7 days. At least it's going to rain.
Right.
So if you're coming to California, you're not going to wear flip-flops and board shorts.
Right. Or maybe I would.
Right. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
But
totally.
Astrology is a lot like the weather. It's just a forecast to predict the future, to predict the energy. And then taking into account, it's just a tool, right? Just like the weather channel is just a tool. Now you can use it or you don't have to use it.
Yeah, right. And I found that more and more the time goes on, I use the weather, and it's super important.
Right.
Side note, squirrel story. Before I drove in yesterday, because I had a lot of stuff to bring in for the podcast. And, but the night before I was up working and I sent my friend Pat a message. And I said, hey, Pat, you around this week? And he's like, yeah, man, on Wednesday, I'm going powder skiing. They're going to be a bunch of snow in the Sierras. And I was like, shit, I didn't look at the weather. And I looked at the weather. I'm like, I got to leave 2 hours earlier. Otherwise I'm not going to make it, you know?
Oh my God.
And so like the
Yes.
weather is important. It's a tool that I use.
Right.
And
it's the same thing like astrology.
yeah,
right?
the service that you provide is definitely a tool that can be
Yeah.
used. And so how did you create this business, this teaching? You refer to it as a business, or is it
Well,
like a teaching
It's kind of, I just started on
platform?
Instagram, just
Yeah.
kind of like talking about it.
Yeah.
Right. And people are like, can you do a chart reading? I'm like, how much do I even charge for that? Like, it was like,
Right.
then people are like, can you do a chart reading? And it just slowly built to a business because I just loved it. And I just did it for fun.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden people were just like, I want to learn more. How do you do this? How do you know this? How are you able to see this in my chart? How do you know when, at 22 years old, something really bad happened in my life, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
how are you able to see all of this stuff,
And so
Yeah.
you read people's charts, and then do you also teach people how to read charts?
Yeah.
So you teach people how to do what you're doing as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And basically the way it's spread is by providing information to people that they realized was true.
Right.
And then they're like, wait a second, I
Right.
need this in my
Yeah.
life. And also I would love to be able to provide this to other people
Exactly.
too. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And it's really good to know your child's Chiron core wounds, which is their core wounds that they got when they were a child. So
Okay.
really understanding that, it also helps you to understand, okay, I don't want to hurt my child, right? And these are their core wounds. So like example, my daughter Taylor has Chiron in the 4th house. Because I wasn't around a lot as a mother, she has these core wounds of being nurtured, loved, cared for. So she tends to push love away, right?
Okay.
So I really have to like hold her in and be like, you're safe.
Just to remind her.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
and I love you, and hug her and rub her and emotionally just like be there for her.
Yeah.
Right. But if I wasn't aware, I'd be like, oh, you don't want to hug? Okay. I don't want to hug you.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
the fact that I'm consciously aware, I know that she needs love. Right. I know she needs emotional support. I know that she needs me to slow down, to think, to be present. Right.
Yeah.
Where before, when I was just a mother fighting sex trafficking, I was go,
Yeah.
work, that I wasn't able to mother her. Right. Yeah. So knowing your childhood core wounds are really good. My other daughter, Scarlett, her Chiron's in the 3rd house. So she has kind of like I call it throat chakra block.
Okay.
So really honoring her truth, speaking her truth.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have to remind her.
Right. And she's really good at it now.
I bet.
But like when she was younger, she really felt like she couldn't really have a say of her life. Right.
Understand.
Yeah.
Wow. How interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in part, like just being around our boys, I have an understanding of like how they are and how to communicate with them differently, but I can see the value in understanding more about why that is so that I can communicate with them in a deeper level. I think that that's really powerful and amazing.
Yeah. Like, let me see where your Chiron's at.
Oh yeah. Here we go.
I know.
Let's go.
See,
Let's go. Read my chart, Missy.
Ooh, okay.
All right. Are you going to ask me questions, or my armpits going to start to sweat? And are you going to stay out of the death house, please?
I will stay out of the death house.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So Chiron is in your 2nd house of self-worth and value, money. It's in your money house.
Okay.
So when you're 22, there's something that could have come up for you financially, where you struggled, or maybe there's something where you're like, what's my value? What's my worth? You could have broke up with someone too.
Are you asking me what happened when I was 22? Well, when I was 22, I was living in Chico, and I was working. I was a soccer coach for Chico State University, which was awesome. And
like 22, 23.
Yeah, 22, 23. And that's when my dad left my mom. So we they separated. That was really challenging.
Yeah.
At that point too, also I had started doing I was working with a network marketing company, and it was called Monavi. Do you remember Monavi? It was like this. It was this juice. I thought they were ahead of time, but basically I was like the juice dude. I was like going around town handing out bottles of juice and like trying to get people to like sign up for it, and then ultimately what happened is it became this like what everybody said it was going to turn out to be that I denied. It became out this like network marketing kind of a scam where the people up top were pulling, they were pulling the money out, and I had a decent amount of money and I spent most of it.
What?
Yeah. And so like I kind of like push it off as like a learning experience,
right?
An extra, like another college degree in like selling and life and whatnot. But I also pushed away a lot of friends, and I felt like kind of lost and didn't know what I was going to do next,
Your self-worth and value.
Yeah. So that's right about what happened when I was 22.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. And it also made it was like this place in my life where I was like, what is my, like, again, what is my purpose? Like, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I don't want to
Mhm.
sell juice. I want to do something that like is meaningful and
Right.
purposeful. And also I want to make money and I want to be able to care for myself and the people that I love. And I want to do awesome things, you know? So I was definitely lost for a while there doing that because I wasn't happy doing it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And the most beautiful thing about you understanding your Chiron is also to know that that's why you're here. Chiron's a key of why you're here. So you're here to really help boost people's self-esteem, their self-worth, their value, to really understand their true value.
Yeah.
You know, and
Huh.
you could have found as a child, you could have felt a little bit lost, you know, like you didn't really know who you were, and you're trying to figure out who you were. You have your Chiron. Let me see. You don't have a very strong Chiron. Let's see, Chiron. Yeah, you don't have a very strong Chiron, which is good. That means you didn't have like a lot of issues when you grew up, you know, but definitely it does square your Venus a little bit. And so this is like you are really good at telling people, like, you're really good at loving people, right? You're really good at saying they're like, oh my God, you don't feel lovable, right? You're really good at seeing that because you felt that as a child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you're really good at loving people and giving them that compassion and that encouragement they need because you can see that they need it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Like, I don't know, my son Owen, every time he goes to school, I'm like, hey man, look me in the eye. Like I drop him off. I'm like, look me in the eye. And he's like, Anna, I love you. And he's like, I love you too, Nick. He calls me Nick, you know? But I'm also like, hey man, be a king of the people and a champion of the playground. I always say that to him, you know? And so I said that to him for a long time, just the whole statement. And now I'm like, hey, Owen, be a king. And he's like, of the people. And I was like, and a champion of the playground. And I'm like, look at me. And he looks at me. I'm like, I love you, you know? And so that's how I am with all three of my kids. But yeah, like that's definitely something that I feel like I understand.
Yeah. And I feel like it's not something necessarily like your parents like scarred you, right? It's just something you recognize that maybe they were busy and there just wasn't there, you know? And so like, that's like why you're here, is to really give people love, to encourage them. Like you can see where the pain is missing. You know, you can see where they don't value themselves, and you can see that and do it in a way that it's not putting them down, but in a way of just like recognizing who they are, essentially.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Thank you.
Seeing through the veil.
Bam. My Venus is squared over what?
Chiron.
Dang right. Yeah. Dang right it is. No, and in this line of work too, I do have that happen a lot. I know you do too, but like where people who are interested in a teacher training, for example, I'll have a conversation with them. Yeah. And after the call, I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be so good for them. Yeah. You know, and I tell them that too, but like ultimately people have to make a decision for themselves. Right. But I can just feel like there's something there that's blocking them from just being like this joyful, vibrant human being, but there's something that's holding them back, you know? And that's like, that's what I love about this job too, is that, or this life, is that I get to actually tell people and help people like realize more out of themselves, you know?
100%. So, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like the Chiron is your calling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of your calling is to see people's like aches and where they're not feeling good about themselves. Like for me, I have Chiron in the first house. So I can look at someone's appearance and see like, oh, they don't love their body, or they feel shameful. Right. And I can see that and be like, you're beautiful. You're wonderful. Like, what are you thinking? Again,
you can speak to them similar, like you're talking about with your kids. You can speak to them based off of what you understand about how they see themselves.
Right.
Yeah. I got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What else about me? Anything else you want to tell me?
So like, for example, my daughter, my oldest one, she has like a little bit of extra weight. Yeah. Right. And I don't go, oh my God, you're fat, you need to lose weight. I'm like, girl, like you rock it, right?
You rock it, girl.
I was actually thinking driving to school today. I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of glad that she's a little overweight, because you know why? Then all these boys aren't going to be after her, and I don't have to worry about that.
Not right now, right? Yeah.
I'm like, you do you, boo. Like, you know, just keep eating the chocolate chips. You do you. Like, we're good. Like, you know, be happy. And all her friends are like, Scarlett has so much self-worth and value. Like, she just doesn't need boys. She doesn't have to talk to boys. Like, she's just like, whatever. Yeah. And I said, yeah, it's because I fed her all of that energy of just like, you're stunning. You're amazing. You don't need some random ass guy that's gonna like shapeshift your life,
Yeah, no kidding. That's such a good
Like
perspective
you're
and such
so
a good
young,
thing.
enjoy your life.
Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing to have self-worth at that age.
Yeah.
Like, and to understand that all you really need is yourself.
Yeah.
And then when you are yourself, the right people and the right opportunities come into play.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And she'll walk around with like her little bikini on and just like strutting it, not even care.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, queen. Like, yes, like you do you.
You do you. That's you. She would like Sawyer. Sawyer, my 5-year-old. He's so funny. He's somewhat like me in a lot of ways, but in his dressing, like, I look pretty sharp today, I would say, for the most part.
Do.
Thank you.
And then
but
I dress down.
Well,
I thought we were going to be wearing like.
Well, at least you have shoes on. I don't have shoes on, but we're in a yoga studio. So
you never have shoes on.
Any of the times you've ever met me, I never have shoes on, right? That's right. I do. My older son has my feet, which is weird, but Sawyer, he dresses, he's like, he has like an American flag hat on and then a pink tank top and then like army pants. And he's like, don't give a shit. It's like, this is who I am. I love this, what I want right now, so, and I love that about him, so, so, okay. For you, how do people get to work with you? What's the best way to connect with you?
On Instagram.
Yeah. And you are on the Insta. You do a lot on there. You're doing live stuff. You're doing giveaways. You're doing reels. Can you talk about the Instagram world and what that's been like for you?
I mean, it's just exploded like overnight. Jupiter went through my 10th house and then Jupiter expands whatever it touches.
Bam, Jupiter.
I was like, bam, so
crazy.
I mean, I also like, and I don't know if you feel this energy right now, Nick, but Neptune has just moved into Aries. So I feel like I finally got that fire and that passion back towards my dreams.
Interesting.
Do you feel like that too? Like where it's just kind of like you're just like, I'm waiting for the door to open. I'm waiting for the door to open. Right?
Yeah.
And you're starting to get that momentum. Like, okay.
Is that in general? Like people in general that's happening? How interesting. Yeah, I do feel like this right here is that for me. This is the very first time that I've done a podcast in the studio with you.
Right.
And it's because I really put my attention on doing more things like this because I love doing this. And I feel like there's more passion, way more fire. Yeah.
And it's talking about like the unconscious mind and making it conscious, right? Which is Neptune, right? So I feel like this energy right now has been this energy of like, there's a door that's opening, but I just don't know which one's going to open. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to be doing for the podcast. Like, I don't know when I should start it. And you can just feel this like lost energy.
Okay. Like there's a lot of opportunity, but people don't exactly know how to harness it. Okay.
And now that Neptune's moving to Aries, there's a lot more fire. There's a lot more passion. There's a lot more desire. But the last time Neptune was in Aries was in 1861.
Whoa.
And as soon as Neptune got into Aries, the Civil War began.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Because people also get very aggressive and angry about the dream that they want, about the vision that they want to have, right? That's the lower octave of Neptune and Aries. The higher octave is I'm going to go for that dream. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work out. I'm going to take care of myself, right? That's the higher octave. The lower octave is fighting and war. And I mean, in the 1860s, when Neptune was in Aries, that's when the gun was invented. The atomic bomb was invented. Dynamite was invented. Like all of that stuff, right? Taking your dream of like, I want to explode this planet and make it a reality.
Dang,
right?
Well, that's crazy.
So I think what we're going to see probably over the next 14 years are that lasers are going to be like new weapons, like to like burn. Right.
Why is that? You see lasers. Why? That wasn't even on my radar. I don't know why, but why lasers?
Well, I think we already have lasers in reality. I think that we have like weather wars already and we don't even really know it.
Yeah.
And lasers are like basically, like lightning, essentially. Right. So I think we're going to start to see more weather wars.
Whoa, that's wild. So the state of the world right now, it's like wild and crazy and messy and whatnot.
Yeah.
And people are all mixed up in it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So
I would say the biggest thing is to disconnect. The biggest thing is to disconnect because we are going through a huge transition as a world. And if you're so entrenched in the financial system, if you're so entrenched in all of this, that's the lower octave of the energy.
Got it. Okay.
The higher octave is we're learning how to manifest. We're learning that our thoughts create our reality. We're learning that we can actually stop Hurricane Milton from actually coming into Florida, right? We're actually understanding the power of our mind. And because of that, the lower octave is they want us to be in fear, because fear draws out faith. And so I would say with everything is to stay away from anything that is keeping you in the fear energy, because that's the lower vibration of what we're going through.
Yeah, got it. And then is it easy to target or to pay attention to and understand what the fear energy is? I mean, sometimes we're so stuck in it. It's like, how do you determine what that is? What's the fear energy?
The fear energy is like the stock market's crashing, crypto's going to crash, look over here. What are they doing? All these planes are crashing, we have these huge hurricanes everywhere. It's literally, especially with Jupiter and Gemini, it exaggerates the information, if you will.
Got it. Yeah.
Right?
So unplug from some things that create fear energy,
Right.
but plug into things that create the manifestation energy, like your channel.
My channel, Wayne Dwyer.
Yeah.
Right. Really understanding your thoughts are your reality. Right. And in reality, you can close your eyes, and your mind doesn't know the difference between open or shut. Right. So when you're meditating, praying, or channeling, your mind doesn't know. It thinks you're in a reality. Right. So if I thought about creating this podcast or having this podcast with you, I first had to create it in my mind. Right. So I first had to initiate in my mind that I'm going to be on TV shows, podcasts, radio shows. And so I've been thinking about that. Right. And then what happens is all of a sudden it comes into reality. Hey, Missy, do you want to do this podcast with me? Hey, Missy, do you want to be on this radio show? Hey, Missy, do you want to go over here? Right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is your mind doesn't know the difference. So it already thinks it's in your existence, and it just makes your unconscious conscious. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also reminds me of the power of visualization.
100%.
And the power of putting your attention on the things that you want to have happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you put your attention on things you don't want to have happen, you probably draw those into your life too.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that reminds me of power of intention and presence and all those things.
Right.
So you disconnect from the stuff that gives you fear energy.
100%. I don't even have a TV in my house.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I don't even have a TV. I don't.
We talked about that. I remember that.
Yeah, because programming is exactly what it is. It's programming your mind.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want anything to program me by the stuff I want to see.
Yeah.
Right. And the commercials program your mind. Like, look at this weight loss thing. Look at this, like hamburger. Look at this. It's like everything's a program. Right. And so I'm very cautious of what I allow to program my mind, my children's mind, all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, Katie and I were talking about this the other day about like a lot of the things that people are seeing happening in the world right now. We weren't meant to see, when we were growing up, we were meant to be in community, be around people, like to be around our families, but now we're seeing things that are happening outside of us and like way away from us, and they're impacting us right where we are, like really sucking the energy out of us or putting that fear and energy into us when nothing really fearful is happening in this exact space. So okay, so you unplug, but how else? I mean, you're dealing with a lot of people's energy, you're dealing with an understanding of a higher power, and you see things and whatnot that other people don't see. How else do you take care of yourself and preserve your energy?
Well, I mean, I would say that I just watch my energy, and then of course, like I rarely get sick. I think because we had through the eclipses, I got sick for one day, and it was just this energetic purge that I was going through because I took on so much energy. Yeah. But I think I have to stay that open channel to really help people what I see coming for their life. Right. And remember what I told you when I first met you, I was like, Nick, people need to see like the happy part of you, the excited part of you, the part that people don't really get to see who you are. Yeah. Right. That you like kind of hide off camera, Yeah.
Or even on camera, you're like, hey, watch this reel of you. And you're like, that is so boring. Right.
I'm like, that is not you, Nick, at
all. Whoa, man. Like, let it out. Like, jeez Louise. Yeah.
Because there's this higher self of you, right? That God essentially has created. And it's like, I try to bring people to that spot of who they are, right? Of what I see. Or like, I can see someone doing the completely wrong job. And I'm like, wait, what are you doing? Like, that is definitely not what God called you to do.
That does not make sense for you.
That does not make sense for you at all. Yeah. And then some people are like, Missy, why don't I have any likes or followers? I was like, because you're totally shooting the wrong crap. Like, this is not you.
Yeah, right. There's like, if the shoe doesn't fit.
Right.
Or wait, what's that
but
saying?
people just keep trying to put it on.
If the shoe fits, wear it. But if it doesn't
Right.
fit, stop trying to put it on.
Yeah, they just keep putting it on and
Yeah.
keep putting it on. I'm like, stop. It's not going to work. Like, there's a reason.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there's definitely probably some areas in my life that aren't working,
Yeah.
you know, and I'd have to take just a moment to think about where those are. But I know like a lot of it, and I talked about this earlier too, is how I'm doing things,
Right.
you know, because when I do something a certain way for a long period of time, it becomes really mundane. And then I feel like I lose the zest for it.
Right.
And so by like constantly being aware of different ways in which I can do things and like truthfully saying, hey, this is what I want to do and this is how I want to do it, it brings more life and fire into what it is that I'm doing, you know? So that just reminds me, like, keep evolving, keep shifting, and keep being big, you know?
Well, I also feel too, like you have this like inner child energy inside of you, you know, where I feel like I don't know why it was suppressed almost. Does that make sense?
No.
No?
I mean, kind of like, you mean like I want my inner child to come out and play?
Your
or what do you
inner
mean?
child does want to come out and play.
Oh yeah, he wants to come out and play.
All the time.
Yeah.
Right? But there's this energy of like, I don't know if it was your mom, your dad, it was like, sit down, Nick, like, don't do that. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's this inner child that's inside of you that I see that is like the essence of who you are. Right. Where I'm like, Nick, just laugh, just play, just be. And you're just like, today on the podcast, we will be like, what the fuck? I'm like, that is not Nick, guys. Like, that is not Nick.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something
I just
about
tell you that is not Nick.
Earth to
Nick.
listeners. This is not Nick. Well, there is something maybe around like being seen or like the way that people perceive me, because it changes when I get in front of a camera.
I know,
it's weird. I'm like, I don't know either, but it's like I don't feel as comfortable in front of the camera. Even if it's a recording, I'm like, no one's even seeing this right now, and I feel awkward as fuck. Like, what is this? You know?
All of a sudden get this serious face, like serious time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what happened to Nick? He just went out the window. Like, where did Nick go?
Yeah.
Okay, there's the exit.
Yeah, Nick disappeared. So I don't know what that is. Like, I remember this story's coming up for me. I was very passionate about being good at soccer.
Right.
And in high school, I was doing like Olympic development program and stuff like that. And then I was playing high school ball at a high level. And so when I came in, I challenged the senior goalkeeper for his position, and I ended up winning that.
Right.
And then, and there was a lot of people who had animosity, obviously, against me, like the seniors, they didn't like that. Right. But then I remember this one specific time, all of the older guys on varsity are sitting on this bench and they're talking about how they're going to go get trashed the night before a game. And I stood up and I was like, I don't understand you guys. You don't want to win? Like, what is this? Right. Like, I felt like they weren't taking it seriously enough. Right. Like, and that's just from my passion. I want to do good. I want to win, you know, but I also, from that, I felt afterwards, like people looked at me like I was like crazy or weird, like an outlier, you know? And I think I am a little bit of an outlier because I want to do good and I'm committed to doing good in that way too, you know? So in some ways that's the way I feel, you know? Yeah.
And because your sun's in Capricorn, it's like I always say suns and Capricorns grow up backwards, because they had to basically essentially raise themselves, right? So you have this very Capricorn energy that is like, okay, be serious. We got to get this done. Take things serious. But there's this child that wants to come out and play. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's fun to come out and play.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like the essence of you is truly going to start shining. And I can see it in the future for you, is you're going to bring the fun into yoga instead of the seriousness into yoga. Right?
Yeah.
Is where you're going to start being able to play and have excitement and joy. And, you know, just like when people are bending over, be like, don't fart now. Do not fart, whatever you do.
Especially if I'm behind you. Nobody wants gas in their face, you know? I've had students that definitely don't have a problem letting it go, having a release, you know? But it's typically like quiet.
As long as you don't shart, we are good.
Oh my gosh.
Shart, we're good.
Keep it pulled in. Like Sawyer, my 5-year-old, the other day, he's like, Nick, I have to poop. And we're like somewhere where we're not close to a toilet. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, just hold it in. He's like, okay, I'm pulling it in. I'm pulling it in. We're walking home or wherever we were. And he's like, I'm pulling it in, Nick. And I'm like, okay, good. Pull it in. those boys remind me to bring my inner child out too. And also they remind me of like being soft and kind and gentle with them and allowing them to be themselves, you know? So thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're going to tap into that more and more as they get older. I really do. I think I've tapped into my inner child the more that my daughter's gotten older. Like that my daughter's gotten older, they were like, Missy, they're like, Mom, you're so annoying, you know?
Yeah.
Like this morning she took a video of me and I was like, you know, rolling my butt around and she's like, don't do that. I'm still making a video of you right now. I'm like, I don't care.
Hey, Mom, stop rolling your butt around. Whatever that means. You're rolling your butt around.
Like my hips. I was like, yeah. Like going like this.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, stop doing that. And I'm like, no. And I drop her off at school, like blast the radio. I'm like, bye, babe. Like,
yeah. Owen right now asked me to turn the radio down when I drop him off. And I'm like, all right, sure. No problem. And I turn it way up. He's like, no, turn it down. I'm like, okay, I'll turn it down. You know, I
don't listen to that.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Like, I'm like, no.
I need to take a stand for it.
Yeah. Like, bye.
See you later.
Woo-hoo,
put the B-52s on, throw some Love Shack out there and just like embarrass the shit out of him. See what he thinks. No.
I've literally, no joke. I've dropped Scarlett off, stopped the car, and she's like, Mom, turn down the music. And I've literally got out, rolled down the windows, and gone up to her and like put my butt up against her, like as she was walking away from me, and everyone's looking at her. I'm like,
oh my gosh, you're awesome. You're awesome, Mom. You're an awesome person. Before we wrap this up, is there anything that you want to share that you didn't have a chance to share?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I feel like we could be like, this could be like a Joe Rogan podcast. I feel like I could talk to you for hours and hours on end. You're just really easy to talk to. And I appreciate the fact that you took the time to be here at Spotted Dog and to be on this.
The street now.
Oh, you're here in Folsom now?
I manifested that house.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I bet you did.
Literally, God said, I want you to move. I said, I don't want to move. And I said, the only way I'm going to move is if I have a white house on a hill, 1 story, with a pool, with a trampoline, with a dog side yard. And that's exactly what I have.
And as long as I get to do a podcast with Nick Clark on Play Hard and Love Big Radio.
100%.
Bam! Appeared the house and here you are today. Yes. Okay, well, I'm going to...
Everything aligns.
God dang, I'm going to manifest some shit today. I love it.
And Love Big Radio podcast, inspiration on your station with the show broadcast. You don't want to miss it. You gotta listen. Good vibes and stories for you to go the distance. Bringing inspiration, stories that shine, helping you connect heart and mind align. Live your best life, lift up and soar. Fueled by kumquat energy, we give you more. Play hard and love big.